EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Victory Monday edition of Birds 365 after the Eagles get their 10th straight win and maybe the most dominant, best win of the season. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
Doing well. Probably not as well as the Eagles or the Eagles fans. Yeah, that was a dominating performance. And, I don't blame people for being excited about this team after watching that game because that was a complete beatdown. Certainly what's a very good defensive team. I'd mentioned during the week, a lot of issues offensively. So that part of it didn't surprise me, to be honest, because I just think Steelers aren't that good offensively. Defensively, though, they're very good. They don't have great corners, and that shaped up well, obviously, for the Eagles. But other than that, they're tremendous on defense. And that second half, just domination. Man, they closed the game at a 10.5-minute, 21-play drive.
John, I don't know if I've ever heard of that. 21-play drive?
Yeah.
Is there any numbers, any statistic you can give me about where that ranks in terms of?
No, not right now. I'm sure I'll hear about it today, but
we'll have Jeff Kerr on. He'll probably have something.
Yeah, he's got the big CBS True Media database at his disposal. But it was, and to the point that I'm sitting there watching Mike Tomlin punt at 4th and 7. I'm like, dude. Not like it's a very unlikely play you're going to convert with that offense. So I get it from his perspective. I get it's conventional thinking. My offense stinks. Let's rely on my defense, which is really good. I get it from that standpoint. But when you're down 2 touchdowns in a game, you got to try to win the game. That was your last opportunity to try to win the game. It's probably not going to work, and I'm like, the Eagles are just going to get this ball back. They're going to siphon much of the 10.5 minutes off the clock. I was thinking 7-8-minute drive. And sure enough, here they go. And they took the whole 10.5 minutes.
Pittsburgh had 2 drives, John, in the second half. 2 drives in the second half.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really bad understanding of game situation by a very good Hall of Fame coach. I really believe that. Just a terrible decision. Not that they were going to win the game, but again, you're out there to try to win the game, and that was remember that was at the Eagles 46, so they were in plus territory. Just a really bad decision. But I mean, again, Eagles completely dominated this game, and defensively, it doesn't surprise me at all. To where we are with Big Fangio surprises me. It's freaking a phenomenal turnaround, all that kind of stuff. They were only on the field for 41 plays, I think. So defensively, complete shutdown performance, essentially. Yeah. But offensively, this is what we've been talking about. And there's no reason it shouldn't be like this. And yesterday it was like that. The Steelers made their decision. All right, let's try to limit Saquon Barkley as much as possible. They did a very good job with that. And you got these corners trying to deal with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, which was laughable, to be honest. Wide open, easy pitch and catch. And, where was that? Well, it's back. Let's see if it continues to be back.
No doubt about it. Jalen Hurts has maybe his best game of the year. That was his best game to me in a long time, Johnny Mac. The way he threw the ball, completed it, looked like he was in command of the game. What'd you see from Jalen Hurts out there yesterday?
Yeah, tremendous game. So, why? We can talk about the stuff that happened during the week. I don't. AJ says he did it on purpose. Everybody was on the same page as far as getting this passing game going. If I could get into the heads of players and ask, why are you hesitant one week and not hesitant at all the next? I'd be in the Hall of Fame as a coach. I don't understand it. But the guy who played against Pittsburgh wasn't the guy who played against Carolina, where he just wouldn't pull the trigger. you've seen all the clips and all the film. Guys running open, wouldn't throw the ball. And now he was throwing it on time. We've talked about that all season. The guys are open and you're making plays. Can it continue? Can it be sustained? That's the question.
No doubt about it. Good job yesterday by the Philadelphia Eagles, who put a beat down on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Johnny Mac, that's 10 straight for the longest win streak in franchise history. They're about 12-2 on the year, and Detroit loses yesterday, John. So the 1 seed is in sights for the Philadelphia Eagles. They need one more loss by Detroit, one more loss by the Vikings, and those two teams have to play each other. So you're kind of going to default into one of them having one more loss. And then the Birds have the NFC East to go. And if they win out, I think they're going to end up with the 1 seed, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I'm not sure if Minnesota wins out where they'd be. I'm not.
They
sure
would win. They would default if they won out. They would get the 1 seed. That's what I read on NFL.com. I'm not sure if that's 100% confirmed, but I read if Minnesota wins out, they would get the 1 seed.
Yeah, I know Detroit. If they win out, they're going to get the 1 seed.
Right. But that wouldn't be possible if the Vikings won.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But and Minnesota has a tougher schedule. They have Chicago tonight, which is a division game. Obviously, they should win it. But then they're at Seattle. Now, Geno Smith got hurt last night, so that might complicate things. I don't know. They said it wasn't structural, so maybe he's back next week. That's a very difficult place to play. And then they have Green Bay and Detroit, obviously. Both very good teams. So really difficult schedule for them. Unlikely that they'll win out. So, yeah, I mean, the Eagles are in good shape because Detroit is just decimated defensively. They lost, Dan Campbell said a limb McNeil, Carlton Davis, probably season-ending injuries. So tack 2 more on.
That would be like the Eagles. Like, what's the comp for that? The Eagles. That would be like losing Quinyon Mitchell and Jordan Davis, maybe.
Well, a limb McNeil's like better than any defensive tackle the Eagles have. So he's like sort of a combination of Jordan Davis, the player-wise. Not saying 2 for 1, but it's hard to make that comp. Carlton Davis is, a good corner, not as good as what the Eagles have at corner, but a good starting corner. And their best, I think, because Terrion Arnold probably the most talented, but I mean he's just a pass interference machine.
Yeah, he's unpolished still yet as a rookie player.
Because they play a lot of press coverage and he's just holding and grabbing all the time. Now, so I mean the Eagles are in very good shape. The one thing though, I'll say that offense, man, is still. They had more 10-play gains. They had 28 10-play plays in that game, losing. Detroit. 28 10 yards or more offensive plays.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. But I will say this, John, you always say this about the game. Because I had the game on the iPad. I was watching the Eagles game mostly, but I was peeking in on the Lions game. They were down the whole thing.
Yeah,
so they were throwing the ball.
They were throwing the ball all over the place. Yeah,
I think
no doubt about it.
Passing, yeah.
And their defense, definitely personality. Got through 59 times. So
holy shit.
But he's 38 of 59, 494, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, they're still scary. So yeah, it's very important to get that game in Philadelphia if you can. And then I'd say, the Eagles should dismantle that defense.
I just wonder, what would our defense do against? I know their offense is incredible. They're averaging like 34-plus points a game when they're at home. But, John, the most points that our defense has given up on this 10-game win streak was 23 to the Jaguars. We held the Bengals to 17. We held the Commanders to 18, the Ravens to 19, Steelers to 13, Rams to 20. Like this,
you ain't holding the Lions to 20.
I'm not saying you're holding them to 17, but
and the problem is if you're winning the game, it's going to be like yesterday for about not the Eagles are much better than Buffalo. But, if they start to really play that style of football where they have to score points, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to compare them to Jacksonville and Cincinnati and
No, I'm just
anybody
saying in
else.
general, our defense has seemed to answer every question left. And in a passing league, they seem to be the best passing defense in the NFL.
Well, they have been, but, I always say in this era, good offense beats good defense. So, and they still have their offense intact. I'm just be wary. Don't
Yeah.
stick your chest out too
Yeah,
much.
no, I hear what you're saying. Look, it's still a great team. It's still the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to just, boat race everybody.
They're healthy on offense, and they're getting healthier actually.
Yeah, they're getting some offensive linemen back.
Yeah. So, yeah, defensively, it's shaping up very well for the Eagles against the Lions. But yeah, offensively, I wouldn't sleep on that team yet.
No, I'm not asleep on them, but I do think we're a better football team than them all around offensively and when you add in every piece of the pie. I think
No,
have the
stop.
right now.
All
No,
around.
I'm saying as a team, the Eagles are better all around.
Yeah, I agree with that right now. And that has to do with attrition, and that's the NFL. I mean, hey, they got some bad luck on injury-wise. You got to take advantage of it. Nobody's going to feel sorry for them,
Right.
As they run up the score when they're healthy. In fact, people with Detroit are probably going the other direction, taking joy in their downfall because of the way they play and the way they run up the score at times. So nobody's going to feel sorry for the Detroit Lions. And defensively, they are an abject mess. But yeah, I would not waver on that offense. They might have to win playoff games 40-35,
Yeah. John, speaking about Nick Sirianni, I thought he had a good coaching performance yesterday. I think you saw a little bit, two decisions by Tomlin that were head shakers to me, that were a little bit of the old style coaching where I think it shows you how being aggressive at times can give you that big advantage as a coach. But your thoughts on Nick Sirianni, and then I also want to ask you about the dust up on the sideline. I don't care about it. I didn't make a big deal about it. To me, it looked very simple. Jaylen Carter made a dumb play. Nick Sirianni, as the head coach, was pissed off about that dumb play. And Clint Hurt protected his player as a position coach. I'm not a player. I never played in the NFL, so I don't have the insight on what a position coach is supposed to do there. In my opinion, I think you got to let the head coach be the head coach. If he wants to say something to Jaylen Carter, the head coach should be able to do that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's common for position coaches to kind of have that.
No, I would
be
not.
In between their player. What'd you make of that little dust up and then just Sirianni's performance?
Yeah, I mean, it was a dumb play, and I don't want to.
Yeah, it was a dumb play.
I don't want to take that off the plate of Jaylen Carter because that's still the thing. He's still a maturing player, and he's going to learn to be more consistent on the field and not do that type of stuff. But yeah, from the coaching perspective, yeah, Clint Hurts got to beg off there. You can't do that. Even if you want to protect your player, which I get, but no, I mean, no, you got to let the head coach go. So from that standpoint, I'm going to blame Clint. Obviously, Nick's not going to talk about it. He was asked about it.
Right.
He's going to keep it in-house, but yeah, I mean, Clint better be on all his P's and Q's or he's going to be looking for a job after the season. You can't do that. That's the head coach's position. And, to Nick Sirianni, for those who don't know who Clint Hurt is, big man. So credit for Nick. Intimidating man. So, yeah, but you can't do that as a position coach. Can't do it.
Well, credit to Clint. I mean, in terms of that defensive line is playing damn good. So I don't want him fired, but I did think he should have let Nick Sirianni.
Well, I'm not saying he's getting fired. Hopefully you get over it.
Saying,
but I'm saying that's the, I'm sure he's going to be told if you do that again, you're going to get fired. Not during the season or anything like that, but you can't do that. Can't do it. But the bigger issue is Jaylen Carter. Like, I think the Eagles got a break there because, to me, it was a personal foul. They called it, and the Eagles got backed up 15, but they said it was after the punt. I don't think it was after the punt. I think it was before the punt. And that was when I was talking about the 4th and 7, where the Steelers, they originally gave it back to the Steelers. They were going to put it at the 31 or 32 yard line. Not that the Steelers were going to win the game, but that keeps them in the game.
Yeah.
And they got a bit of a break because they said they got together and said it was after the punt. I don't think it was after the punt. So it probably should have stayed Pittsburgh football. That could have been a really big mistake. It was just, now it's just a footnote, but great player, but yeah, needs to mature a little bit, Jaylen Carter.
Johnny Mac, yesterday for me was the Jalen Hurts show. I mean, I saw now you can tell me what you think of this. There's a lot of concern, and by me included, coming into this game of we haven't seen this team pass effectively really since the bye week. You haven't seen the type of explosive passing offense you're looking for every week with these type of players, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Well, I thought you saw it yesterday. I thought Jalen Hurts answered the bell, and I thought he showed you this team is more versatile than they appeared to be in their previous 9 wins straight. What did you see yesterday from Jalen Hurts? How impressed were you with it? And do you think are you buying into it as much as I am, or are you still a little bit? Let's see a little bit more.
Well, no, I'm still. Let's see a little bit more, Camp, because again, now he was phenomenal yesterday. But why are you defaulting to the Pittsburgh game as the template versus the Carolina game?
Right.
Like, which Jalen Hurts are we going to see?
Well, I do think the template is neither of them at this point, right? It's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I don't think you get to 12-2 with Carolina performance every week.
No. And that was his worst. But there was a stretch there where he wasn't good. Baltimore, he was not good.
I think that's fair.
And now he turned. This is more like a 2022 performance where he took advantage of a huge emphasis on stopping the run game, which they pretty much did. And that's, and I said the Steelers came into that game, I think, giving up 91 on the ground per game. So very good run team. And I said, well, the Eagles are going to go over that, but you just want to keep them to 125, 130 versus 200.
Right.
And they kept them to 131 total. A lot of that with Jalen Hurts as well. So right where I pegged it at, that's a really good job against the Eagles running game. And it was 3.1 yards a clip, by the way.
Right. It wasn't, it wasn't explosive.
Yeah. So very good job by Pittsburgh. And, they told their corners you got to hold up, and their corners couldn't hold up. So he threw it 23 times to AJ and Devontae and had 19 receptions for 219 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Safe to say those guys are good. Get them the freaking ball, man. Look at how good they are.
Yeah, and it's like, where's this been? Where's this been? And that's where this frustration stemmed from. So for those people who were, losing their minds last week about, whoa, how could you talk about? I mean, come on. You must feel somewhat silly.
Well, I think yesterday showed how dynamic this team can be.
This is what we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
When you can pass the ball, man, you're a different beast. You can move that ball differently in the modern NFL, and the Eagles did it yesterday. And I think you clearly saw what type of upside this team has if it all starts clicking, and that's what people expected coming into the year. Where you have
this is what Howie envisioned. Yeah. This is what Howie Roseman envisioned when he put together this group. All right, you want to stop Saquon? We're just going to throw it. All right, you want to bracket AJ and Devontae? We're just going to run Saquon. This is what he envisioned.
Right.
But it hasn't been that through the success has been there, but they have relied on the foundation of Saquon Barkley really until yesterday. And I think the fact that Saquon got a little bit banged up on top of it tells you also how small that margin of error was.
Right.
Because what if that's a playoff game? and he's out there shaking his leg and trying to get it loose
Yeah,
in the
right.
second quarter. And all of a sudden, you're playing a good team, and they start to pull away because you can't do anything without Saquon. Could be a much different environment. So really good to get. And look, there was never any doubts about AJ and Devontae. I don't think, at least. Doubts were over the quarterback, and the quarterback played well, very well.
Let's get to a couple super chats. We're going to talk to Jeff Kerr. Looking forward to talking to Jeff Kerr coming up in a little bit. Appreciate everybody watching the show this morning.
If he gets up, you never know.
We'll see if he gets up. If not, we got plenty. Up there he is.
Oh, there he is.
Popping in. He's up, Johnny Mac. But I appreciate everybody watching. That's a big win, everybody. That's a big win yesterday. 10 straight for our Philadelphia Eagles. And they are, I think, in driver's seat now to get close to that 1 seed. I think they will get it ultimately. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening, but I think they have a great chance to get it. Let's get to a couple super chats here. Brian Garner, I appreciate it. Brian, your next super chat is everything else I'm thinking about, Brian, you hit on, so I'll get to that in a second. Brian Garner says, 2 mistakes by Tomlin, not taking the penalty and kicking it to the Eagles. There was a penalty there that would have moved the Eagles back to 1st and 30. Yeah. He declined it, and it was 2nd and 20. I thought that was I said it in the moment. I'm like, that's interesting there, the way the offense is moving the ball. And then obviously the kicking it to the Eagles there, John. I thought that was egregious.
I would have pushed it back. I said the same thing. Just because of the Eagles' explosiveness, I would have pushed it back. You know, there's a big difference between 20 and 30 from a mental standpoint as well. From a coaching standpoint, if you're facing even 1st and 30, you're like, all right, well, we got to.
You have plays for a 20 yards. You don't really have 30-yard plays.
No. And that's what I mean. You kind of give up, and from a human nature standpoint, just dump it off. All right, let's try to flip the field, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I thought that was a mistake. And obviously, in hindsight, it was a disastrous mistake to punt the football by Pittsburgh at the end of the game. But even in the moment, I was like, come on, right? I mean, you're not even trying to win the game. To me, that was raising the white flag. And they did. That was it. They never got back on the field. I didn't think the Eagles would siphon the entire 10.5 minutes off.
21 plays, 10.5 minutes. And by the way, they could have scored there if they wanted to.
Oh, they could have
scored. I mean,
I thought they'd take their typical 6-7 minutes off and the game would have been over. But yeah, that was a really bad decision, I think, by Mike Tomlin.
Brian Garner checks in again. Brian, appreciate your support this morning, my man. Don't forget to hit that like button, everybody. We should have a big day on likes with what the Eagles did yesterday. Great game for the Birds. Brian Garner checks in. He says, Vic is the MVP. Agreed. Gainwell had 2 great 3rd down conversions. I'm not comfortable with Cooper on punt returns. He took a big hit on the sidelines and the fumble. Nolan is playing well. Good team well. Hit a lot in that super chat there, John, but I think I agree with just about everything there. You got to wonder, is Vic Fangio watch Cooper DeJean get blown up there and say, that's my slot corner. Come on, Michael Clay, find another punt returner.
Well, yeah, it's not up to Michael, believe me. And yes, Vic has already said he would prefer that Cooper not return punts. And Britton should be back this week, so everything should be fine, hopefully, moving forward if he doesn't get hurt. But, yeah, I don't think the Eagles want him back there either. They just, when Britton got hurt, they had to put him back there, they felt, because they didn't feel comfortable with any of the other options. So when Britton is back, and I think it'll be at Washington, I think it'll be fine. But yeah, that was a big play by Pittsburgh. And yeah, I'm with you on Vic. I can't say enough good things about Vic. I can't even believe it. It is. It's
pretty insane. What about Nolan, John? He was really impressive to me yesterday. I think he played, 40 or a lot of most of the snaps yesterday as well. He's turning into now a good player. He's not a great player yet, but he's turning into
it was pretty active. Yeah, the thing that impressed me about Nolan Smith is not the pass rushing; it's how he sets the edge.
Yeah,
and that was kind of the scouting report on him coming out of Georgia. Nobody realized like he was a great run defender because he's so small and he's so athletic and everybody projects to the pass rush. He's really good setting the edge. And yeah, he's been a pleasant surprise since his workload got the big uptick and he was really active again yesterday. Defense was barely on the field, partially because of the offense and because of their effectiveness. And then, yeah, I'm glad he mentioned Kenny Gainwell. Kenny was great.
Yeah.
Man, he had that spin move.
Yeah.
I would say
that was tremendous.
For those who don't know Chuck Foreman, I'm a big Chuck Foreman man. He a fan. He was the sort of the first spin move guy back in the 70s. That's what it reminded me of, that spin move. And then he's more physical. He's gotten bigger, and he had that other third down conversion where he just split two defenders, showed off his physicality. And he's a really good receiver. He's the Eagles' best receiving back. But, you know, it's hard to take Saquon off the field. I think the Eagles should, to keep him healthy.
I agree.
I'm not worried about that.
I'm done with the Dickerson. Yep. I'm done with the stupid Dickerson record.
Yeah, like, who cares?
It's more worth it for this passing game to get going and keeping Saquon healthy. I think that gives you the best chance to win the Super Bowl.
I'm like, you know, if he runs for 200, all right, you know, if it happens, great. You know, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not putting him out there to get that record, especially after he got banged up a little bit. So, you know, but I've said that from the start. I would have been a little bit more disciplined, say, all right, Saquon, you get 3 drives, Kenny gets 1, that type of thing, especially in the first half. And I'd certainly be there because the Eagles, you know, it's a tough game, but the Eagles are a much better team on the road. So it's a little bit tougher, and then Dallas and the Giants, I mean, come on. You could be disciplined.
Good stuff there, Brian Garner. One more super chat, then we'll get to the legend, Jeff Kerr. I'm looking forward to talk. I know Jeff has some good stats for us today. I think, you know, this.
I want to hear about that drive. If you got anything on
Brian
that drive.
puts this in, and we'll cross-check this with Jeff. He says, Zander, we tied the Dolphins with the most plays in one drive in NFL history. 21 is insane, but we'll talk to Jeff Kerr about that. Old Eagles fan says, JM, can you ask Hurts what he has against the Steelers? Dude turns into Peyton against them every time out of nowhere. Yeah, last time he did have 3 touchdown passes to A.J. Brown in the first half.
I think part of it is, I talked about human nature versus Carolina. It works both ways. Like, the Eagles were fired up for this game. They think Pittsburgh's good. They think Pittsburgh's a good opponent. They are a good opponent, but they really wanted to show something against this team. So I think it works both ways. And they have a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin and TJ Watt, and they should. TJ Watt is just an unbelievable football player. But I think they have a ton of respect for this team and knew, like, if we show up and play like we did against Carolina, they're gonna put us in our place. So I think that human nature thing works both ways.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Last one before we get to our break. Suplex City says Big Z with Johnny Mac and the Cartel.
The Cartel.
Media stirred up Hurts knowing he would throw all day after being called out, purposely limiting Barkley. That's a good super chat right there. The Cartel.
When is the Cartel meeting? I have to ask Jeff.
Jeff Kerr is organizing said meeting.
I like the Cartel.
Some say it's Thursday. We will see about that one. Good stuff, Suplex City. Appreciate everybody checking in this morning. Let's get to our commercial break, and then we'll have Jeff Kerr coming up next on Birds 365. Before I do that, I want to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go check them out. It's betus.com.pa. You can see the promo code on your screen. It's YouTube 150. That's 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit. So go check them out right now, betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. The fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So go check out BetUS. We'll be right back in 3 minutes, everybody, to talk about the 10 straight win Eagles with Jeff Kerr coming up next.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an Audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Victory Monday edition. A Victory Monday, Birds 365, 10 straight wins for the Philadelphia Eagles. Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, how you doing, brother, on this overreaction Victory Monday for the Birds?
What's there to overreact to?
The last drive. Tell me about the last drive, because I overreact to it. I thought that was, in the moment, I thought that was just a terrible decision by Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
why are you not going for this?
Yeah, we were talking about that in our section of the press area too. We're like, why is he punting right now? He's down 2 scores. There's no guarantee he's going to get the ball back, even though there were 10 minutes and 29 seconds left on the clock. They haven't stopped the Eagles all day. I don't know what Mike Tomlin was thinking in that moment.
Yeah. 21 plays, 10 and a half minutes, 10:29 officially. What can you tell us about that? Where I can't remember a game ending like that. You see those long burst drives sometimes, 8, 9 minutes. Anything True Media, CBS? How big is that drive in the history of this game?
Well, in the Eagles' history, it's their longest drive in terms of time since 2018, but it's not the longest drive to end a game. We do play-by-play data since 1991. There's only like 4 or 5 since 1991 to end the game like that. So yeah. Eagles did make some history yesterday.
Yeah, it was impressive. And that was, most of what the real impressive stuff happened earlier in the game, and that's getting the passing game going. So the cartel worked. for whatever reason, I don't know when the meeting is yet. Have we set that up yet, Jeff? I don't know.
I don't think we set up the meeting. I'm sure we'll let Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown.
We got to go back to we got to go back to the drawing board because our efforts to destroy this team from inside are not working.
I got an overreaction.
I said to several players yesterday, I'm like, look, they smiled every time I mentioned it to them. I'm like, you guys do know you guys created all this, right?
Yeah.
You had a teammate that created all this, and it was fun smiling.
Yeah,
they know. It's all fan service.
I got an overreaction for you, Jeff, and you tell me if it's an overreaction. The Eagles passing game is back, baby. It's back.
It left.
It did leave.
It did leave.
Left for 3 weeks.
Why do you guys think it left? Because they led in the fourth quarter?
No, 108 yards versus Carolina, 118 versus Baltimore. I get it. I've been saying it forever. I mean, part of it is just the personality of the game and their closing out game, and they never throw it in the fourth quarter. But yeah, effectiveness wise, like if you look at the film, and the yards per attempt have been good for the most part for most of the season. But if you look at that Carolina film and all the open receivers and Jalen Hurts hesitating, no, I'm not buying it. People can point it was.
Well, Carolina was his worst game of the season. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
I mean, listen, AJ Brown went from three targets, 4 targets, back to 11 targets yesterday. So I mean, it was definitely an increase in targets for both of those players, which I think is a really good thing. But is it enough to give you optimism through the end of the year?
For me, it is. I mean,
I'm with you.
Yeah. And remember, let me just throw in, Jeff. Remember, I think people forget it was AJ, it was Devontae, it was Jalen, it was Nick after the Carolina game, all saying this. Kellen Moore during the week. And, AJ and Devontae after the game yesterday said there were uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, that was my takeaway from all of it. And I think it was more than just them, too. I think it was a collective effort. I think even the offensive linemen were involved in this because remember the offensive linemen were talking about the passing game being off last week.
Jordan Lane did. Yeah. Everybody did. Everybody just focused on AJ because they think he wants the ball, even though he never said that.
No. And my big takeaway was, and I talked to some players about this week, what is going to happen because teams are doing what Mike Tomlin did, doing single high safety, having everybody down to stop Saquon. And Saquon's been getting more looks of 8 men in the box. It's like, okay, you're daring a quarterback who actually can throw it, contrary to popular opinion, at least nationally, to do it. And he proved he can do it. He's proven time and time again he can do it. And I think that's why they really want to get the passing game going.
Yeah, and they did. Now, let's talk about Saquon because he got a little bit banged up.
Says he's okay.
He was okay. I mean, he started the third quarter. It happened in the second quarter, started the third quarter. It's not the first time. I mean, that's just week 15 of the NFL season. He's touched it a ton. Guess what? He's banged up. I don't care about this record, Jeff Kerr. Should anybody care about this record?
I don't. I personally don't think fans care either. I think it's nice to get, but I always thought it was going to be tough sledding to get it anyway, just because of like you said, John, the wear and tear. He's had a lot of carries. I like to see him get 2,000 yards, and I think that's possible. But you want Saquon Barkley ready for the playoffs. The thing is now, I actually think it kind of. I don't want to say yesterday hurts his chances. I actually think in a weird way it kind of improves him because now you have something to play for with home field advantage. So Saquon Barkley is going to play the final 3 games. It's just going to be really tough for him to get that. I don't care personally. I think he's having a hell of a year. I like to see him get 2,000 yards because that's elite company. And you are going to have your place in history.
Well, I think everybody would. I agree with that. I think but at the end of the day, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think
it's not big of a deal to him either.
Yeah, if it happens in just a natural sort of, in other words, if he's at 1990, and I not that's too close. If he's at 1900 or going into, week 18, and even if they have to win the game and they're beating the Giants by 4 touchdowns, I'm not keeping them out there.
No, I think what means more to Saquon is when I asked him yesterday about, being on a team that's won 10 games in a row, what does that mean for him? And, he said special. He said he didn't think anybody in the locker room has been on a team that's won 10 games in a row in the NFL. He said, it's special.
Well, yeah, the Eagles have gotten close. They won 9 straight, but that's the first time they won 10 straight. They won 9 straight a lot. Boy, are people getting spoiled in this town? Because this team wins an awful lot.
Yeah. I think they've been spoiled since 2000, to be honest with you. We're getting to the point where people are saying Andy Reid is not a great coach. Like, come on. Like, guys running laps around Bill Belichick right now. Bill Belichick had to go to college to duck him.
Well, I blame the NFL for that.
Well, I
don't think he's ducking him. I think he'd love to be in the NFL. But
I actually thought he was going to – I actually thought Bill Belichick was going to be head coach of the Bears. I thought that was the job.
Nobody wants an old guy. They want, the next Matt Eberflus. They want the next.
Do you think no one wants an old guy, or do you just don't think they want him changing everything up?
I think, well, a little bit apart, but I think the major part of it is, and it always mystifies me with coaching searches. We want the guy who's going to be here for 15, 20 years. Well, what are the odds? All these shitty teams, they're firing guys every 2 years.
Of coaches are gone in 3 to 5.
So these are the coaches that have been around for 15, 20 years, like Andy Reid and Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh.
Yeah, exactly. It's ludicrous. Even like the Eagles are trying to run out Nick Sirianni, not the Eagles, but Eagles fans at least, trying to run out Nick Sirianni for a 2-2 start after the collapse last year. Yeah, nobody's lasted in 15 years. Oh,
that was the other thing. Saquon. Every time I ask him a question, he always likes to give me a good quote here, and he talk. I forget what I asked him, but he brings up. I remember when we were 2-2. Oh no, it was the 10-game win streak. I remember we were 2-2, and the sky was falling. Everybody wanted the coach fired.
By the way, well, the sky was falling. And by the way, the Eagles overreacted to that 2-2 start. I've maintained that from the start. Because remember, AJ didn't play in 3 of those games.
They're 11-0 when AJ Brown plays.
Yeah. And they were like, oh my God, we can't throw it. We got to default back. I thought that was a mistake. Now they've won 10 straight, but
the biggest revelation coming out of the 10-game win streak was how well the defense has been.
Yeah. Oh God, the defense is.
They've been insane, Jeff.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about the defense because the defense is just. There's no EKG with the defense. They're always good.
This is a fun stat I like to point out about the defense. The defense's highest yards totals happened in the first 4 weeks of the season. That's nuts.
Yeah, I mean. And part of it is just, getting more familiar, teaching the scheme to the younger players, but
working on the tackling too, I think was big.
Yeah. The tackling circuits, a lot of good stuff coming from the defense. But when we talk about this stuff every week, we're hyper focused on the offense. One, that's where all the superstars are. But 2, they're the ones who are inconsistent from week to week, so there's stuff to talk about. The defense is just solid every week.
Yeah, they held the Steelers to 167 yards yesterday. I don't care if George Pickens plays or not. You held a team that has been averaging 28 points per game, and Russell Wilson starts and is 6-1.
Yeah, he said that offense stinks. Though.
Yeah, it's not.
But I'm not taking it away from the Eagles. The Eagles defense is great.
I mean, they were swarming to the ball,
and they're going to be better.
Best play was a flea flicker.
Yeah. Boy, that offense is limited, though.
Yeah.
Like there are other teams not nearly as qualified as the Eagles defensively.
Anyway,
that are
did
gonna
you guys
shut that team
chuckle as much as I did when Nick was trying to talk to Jaylen Carter and Clint Hurt was blocking him, and basically Jalen was like kind of smiling through the whole thing?
I did see that. We talked about it a little bit in the open. What'd you make of that, Jet? Like, what do you think of that type of interaction there?
I still think Clint Hurt said to Nick Sirianni, "I'll deal with it. I'll handle it." I think that's if
I hope so, because I hope he wasn't being. And
yeah, see, that's the thing. I still say that's disrespectful to a head coach if
I
it
agree.
went any
Yeah.
further than that. Because, like, look, you can say whatever you want about Nick. The guy's 46-19. You know, show some respect for the guy.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, and he's the head coach. You're not.
And
the
I
head
don't
coach.
know. I don't know what Clint. I said if Clint did anything, like he's off. Yeah, he's off the reservation. You have to let. And even if Nick should handle it better in the moment, because we all know Nick's a hothead. And he might.
Put Miles.
That's something you might want to address after the game.
Was he even asked about it after the game, John? You were in.
Yeah, he was asked about it, and he basically said we're going to keep that in house and all that kind of stuff. But he did say, hey, he made a play that is not part of our standards, so my job is to correct that. Now, do you correct it on national television and embarrass what's an immature kid to begin with? Needs to mature a little bit. Maybe I would have handled it. Maybe you can argue that.
I mean, Nick does know that he had a couple other defensive players. I know the penalties went to the Steelers, but the Eagles were a little trippy in that little brawl in the end zone.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. We got a pool report about that. I was stunned the Eagles didn't get flagged on that.
I thought Quinyon Mitchell was going to get flagged.
Yeah, he threw punches, and the officials like,
Yeah,
we
Slay
didn't
threw a
see.
haymaker. Quinyon threw a haymaker.
They didn't see it. They didn't see it.
In my video, Broderick Jones threw a couple haymakers. He got nothing.
Yeah.
This is like I thought. I'm like, am I in like a bizarro world? So the question is, did you see any punches thrown? No punches were observed on the field. Since we had flags down also, it gave New York an opportunity to review the play as well. There was no video evidence of punches observed by the Philadelphia Eagles.
I have
Are you freaking kidding me?
I have a video where there's punches.
What?
These guys, I'll tell you what. They
By the way,
really
for
get
all
up.
the I hate officials, yeah, explain that one. Because that one went to the Eagles and shouldn't have. For all those, the officials are against the Eagles, and New York's against the Eagles. Because everybody in that building saw punches thrown by the Eagles.
Just remember,
New
John,
York.
Everybody is against the Eagles. The officials, the national media, the local media, everybody's against them.
All right, enough of that bullshit. Jeff, NFC. Lions lose yesterday. Eagles win. Now you almost control your own destiny. You need one more loss each from the Lions and the Vikings, but they play each other in the last game of the year. So you're probably good for a loss for one of them.
Do the Eagles need...
You can't almost. I'm going to
I
jump
thought the
in
Eagles
here.
had the tiebreaker over the Vikings.
See,
I thought
don't know.
they didn't. See, I thought they didn't.
I'll have to look that up, Zander.
Yeah.
You got to, because I read online, and it might not be true. Admittedly, it was like a tweet or somebody put on Twitter that if the Lions went out
for you.
or the Vikings went out, that they would win. But I think we're.
Well,
we're
I
in a
just
good-
want to correct something because I'm a nitpicker with this.
Okay,
kind
go
of
ahead.
Stuff. You cannot almost control your destiny. They do not control their destiny.
Yeah, they do not control their destiny. The Lions control their destiny.
Yes. I don't know about the Vikings. Jeff's got to look that up.
Yeah, I'm looking this up now. Okay.
Just win every fucking game you can, Eagles, and that's controlling your.
Well, they have
destiny.
to.
I
They
hear
have
what you're
to.
saying, though.
They have to win.
So right now, now the Vikings play. They play tonight.
Yeah.
They play NFC games the rest of it. Right now, the Eagles have a better conference record than the Vikings. But the Vikings,
they would go 4-0 in the conference. So
yeah. So Minnesota has the next tiebreaker, which is strength of victory. Actually, no. Do the Vikings? No, right now the Eagles do because they beat Pittsburgh. So the Eagles got that strength of victory tiebreaker, and they have the strength of schedule tiebreaker.
Yeah, but
right
think
now,
about it. Vikings would have to knock off the Lions in the last game.
They also play the Packers too, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have
so their path is harder. I did this in my overreactions piece late last
Their
night.
path is much harder. But I think if they win out, they might.
If they win out, they will jump the Eagles in strength.
Yes.
Because they're playing Green Bay.
Well, would they jump them in conference as well? That's my question.
Well, no, they'll be tied in conference, so it goes to strength of victory.
All right.
That's the next tiebreaker. And because the Giants suck and the Cowboys suck, it does not help but Washington being 9-5 right now does help the Eagles. So I'll have to calculate it, but I think Minnesota would have that just because of those two. If they beat those two teams and finish 15-2.
Yeah, but their schedule's brutal. So the Eagles' advantage is their schedule is not brutal. They beat, Washington's the last test, let's be honest. And they're a significantly better football team. With the NFC East on the line, they still haven't clinched that technically.
They'll clinch the 2 seed next week if they win too.
Yes. Because obviously the loser of the NFC North will bump down to the BIP seed, which is bullshit, but that's the way the NFL does it. But and then somebody's got to win the NFC West, and somebody's got to win the NFC South.
By the way, the Rams took over first place in the NFC West last night because
and Geno Smith got hurt, so Rams could be in good shape.
The 49ers are mathematically still alive.
Yeah, and didn't the Bucks move into first in the NFC?
They moved in the first a couple of weeks ago. So,
and I know the Bucks are going to scare Eagles fans, and they should because they've beaten them.
They are a good team.
They are a good team, but
Baker Mayfield's having a really good year. They got 2 running backs who have like a combined 17 or 1,800 yards. They got a pretty good team this year. I'm not going to lie. I mean, they're a pretty good squad. Baker Mayfield's been impressive.
They were pretty good last year.
The NFC is actually a much deeper conference than the AFC.
Yeah, I agree.
Much.
I don't know what happened. The AFC was dominant for like a couple of years, and now it looks like the NFC's better.
Like I wrote this in my overreactions piece too, and I said this isn't a overreaction. The AFC is their 7 playoff teams right now. Like the 7 that are in right now are going to be the 7. There's 3 teams that are 6 and 8. It's the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Colts. Well, the Broncos just beat the Colts. So
right,
the Colts
so you got the Ravens, Broncos, and Chargers who all have winning records. They're going to be your 3 wildcard teams.
Yeah, honestly, the top AFC teams are going to be playing each other over the next couple of weeks, but they're still kind of locked in. It's just more.
What a pitiful performance by the Chargers yesterday.
Oh,
I haven't looked into it.
I didn't see that.
You know what? I've said this all year. I think they're the most overrated team in football, the Chargers. And I like Jim Harbaugh.
40-17 at home, although they never play a home game, but they're at home against Tampa. I mean, that's
Baker Mayfield, 22 of 27, 288, and 4 tutties.
Speaking of home games,
that's pathetic. But they also gave up 223 on the ground. That's the bigger issue.
Speaking of home games, there were a lot of yellow towels at Lincoln Financial Field yesterday.
Oh, Pittsburgh is.
They travel well.
Yeah. For all the, everybody here likes to say the Eagles have the best traveling fan base. I'm not sure they do.
There are a lot of Steelers fans around this country.
Yeah, they're Steelers and Packers. I say, those 2 teams can give anybody a run for their money. That's all.
It's a toss-up between all 3 of them. I think you're right. You're not wrong. Those are great fan bases too, but I'll put the Eagles in there as well.
I'll say this though with Eagles fans. I think Eagles fans are more local, if that makes sense. Like they're like the brand. I feel like Steelers is a national brand.
I think a lot of that has to do with their success and early on where they had, back in the day when they were winning bowls left and right, doesn't it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the Eagles are catching up.
I think they are too because they're winning a lot. And I've said this too. Like I love to get on Packers fans about this more than Steelers fans because we are in PA. I can understand it. But I love Packers fans around this area. I always ask them, especially older ones. Well, why are you a Packers fan? Well, Vince Lombardi. Okay, how old were you when Vince Lombardi was around? Well, I wasn't. Okay, so you like the Packers when they sucked in the 70s and 80s. Well, that's not true.
Ask them if they like Lynn Dickey. There was a 20
take. Someone said this about Philly fans too. Steeler fans don't travel. They just move the hell out of Pittsburgh.
I mean, that is funny.
I love Pittsburgh. At least I don't spend a lot of time there. their setup downtown with the stadiums is
Oh, it's beautiful.
phenomenal. It's
Yeah, it is good.
phenomenal.
PNC Park, I always recommend. Go to
The whole
San
city's painted yellow, though. It's just an ugly city in my opinion.
black and
See,
yellow.
I disagree. I love the whole bridge setup. I think it's.
Oh, it's fucking ugly. You kidding me?
No, I disagree.
There is nothing aesthetically
think
pleasing,
when you're-
architecturally pleasing about that to me.
Boy, really? I think that's just a hatred of the football team. For some
No,
reason.
no, I don't even hate the Steelers. I don't. hate the Steelers.
I'm like, I think it's cool. The whole bridge set at the Three Rivers.
There's a family connection for the Steelers in my family, so I can't hate.
I just think the city is. I think the way the city is set up is cool. Now, I would hate to be there in the winter. I have no interest in it, but
I have no
think
interest
it's
in being
cool
here in the
setup.
winter.
Like, are you telling me that Pittsburgh's not a cooler setup than Philadelphia Center City? Like, Philadelphia does nothing with the river, the Delaware. For years, you could have so much set up down there, and they do nothing.
Penn's Landing is the most overrated project Philadelphia's ever had.
Yeah,
No,
don't even
Penn's
get me
Landing.
started on
Hey,
the
listen,
city of
yeah,
Philadelphia.
I'm not going to sit here and act like Philly does everything right. I'm just telling you, Pittsburgh.
I just think it's a way better looking city downtown. I don't even think it's close. I'm sorry.
We are.
I'm going to get in trouble.
We
But
are
I'm
an
sorry.
important city in the history of our country.
Well, that's
Pittsburgh is a
true.
fucking
Well,
nothing.
I think
Oh,
our
well,
city
that's
should
true.
actually do more with the history than what they do, and I
I'm
think
just
we
talking
do a
pure-
solid job with it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
agree.
I'm just talking pure aesthetic look.
Yeah, I
That's all
hear
I'm
you.
talking
I hear
about.
you.
That's all I'm talking about.
I think the
Obviously,
yellow
yeah.
bridges are ugly. I don't like the yellow bridges, John.
Well, I don't care about the color. I just think it's a cool.
Yeah, I
setup
hear you.
and cool
You
look.
know, it's funny when I talk to a lot of my buddies from Pittsburgh. They're like, "Oh, traffic's terrible here." I'm like, "You ever been to
Traffic's
Philly?"
terrible everywhere.
Well, any big city in the world. That is how
Yeah.
it works. I mean, I lived in Houston for 2 years. I would go. It doesn't matter what time you left your house. You were stuck in traffic in a 6-lane highway in Texas.
Yeah, I see. I even think that's
Where the
worse.
hell are all these people coming from?
But
Yeah.
Philly at least has an excuse because they got that stupid law that Delco pointed out on 476 that makes 3 lanes into 2.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they have an excuse. They don't have a 6-lane highway.
Jeff, I want to ask you about another player. All right, he's a guy that's really stood out to me in recent weeks. Nolan Smith. What have you seen from him? Is he really starting to turn the page as being a viable NFL player, NFL edge rusher, in your opinion? What have you seen from Nolan
He's
Smith?
definitely viable. I mean,
Yeah.
he had half the team's pressures yesterday. They had 4. I mean, they had 8. He had 4 of them. I really like the way Nolan has been playing. I think a lot of that has to do with Vic Fangio and Clint Hurt, maybe. And again, defensive ends, pass rushers, they take more time to develop in this league. And the Eagles openly admitted multiple times last year, we should have got Nolan Smith on the field more. I noticed, and like, I didn't want to write the guy off or anything after year 1, but I noticed in the playoff game against Tampa last year, with all this, he actually had a pretty good game in that last year. And I was like, you know what? This guy could break out a little bit this year. I think he's done that. I mean, I've been pretty impressed. He's come a long way from the 3rd game of the preseason where he couldn't get on the field.
Right.
Yeah, I think what impresses me most about Nolan is not the pass rushing; it's how he sets the edge. You look at him, his size and
Underrated run stopper.
yeah,
too, by
he
the
was
way.
great. That's what they said at Georgia. He was great setting the edge at Georgia. And I think that surprises people because he is so undersized. Just a really physical player. And yeah, maybe that's one of those things where you never want guys to get injured. BG was playing at a high level, but you throw him into the deep end of the pool and all of a sudden you go, this isn't bad. Sometimes that stuff works out. And it's worked out, but boy, I mean, they were on the field, I think, for 41 plays, the defense. At some point, is somebody going to test this defense?
Well, they kind of were tested in the first quarter when the Eagles were fumbling the ball away.
That's true.
Well, that's true. The
I was
short
joking.
fields.
Eagles had their best first quarter of the year with 10 points, and they had another touchdown right after the quarter ended, and they had 2 turnovers. I'm like, boy, it shows you how good this team is when they have a passing game. They can move the ball.
The Steelers started the game running 16 plays for 11 yards. I'm like,
yeah, what was it?
Okay.
They didn't get a first down till I think 9 minutes left.
It was an ugly start for Pittsburgh.
You know what I think was the most
3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. When they didn't even get a first. Yeah, it was pathetic.
It was
early in the game.
148-2 total yards in the first quarter.
First quarter, yeah.
Also, I thought this was probably the most impressive play of the defense, and they gave up a 31-yard pass. It was the flea flicker.
Zach Bond, yeah.
And Zach Bond was beaten. And look, Zach Bond can't tell where the ball is, but if Zach Bond just does this, he knocks that down.
Yeah, I was like, he's running with a receiver like he's Derek Brooks. I said that on the. And he was really disappointed in himself for that play. And I'm like, dude, you're running with a receiver 30 yards down the field.
If I'm Bobby King, if I'm interviewing for a defensive coordinator job, I'm just showing him pictures of Zach Bond and the Kobe Dean and say, there's my resume. Do what you want with it.
You know, he deserves coordinator looks. You know, that's another thing. We'll get to this down the road. But
they're gonna poach the Eagles.
Yeah, they're gonna poach the Eagles again. Be prepared for this.
That's what happens when you win football games, John.
Yeah.
Who, in your guys' opinion, is the top priorities on defense? Because there's a lot of guys who are in a contract year who could, on a 1-year deal. Yeah, well, I think he's obvious. Does Milton become the next guy? Is he a priority in your opinion? Like,
you got Josh Sweat too to worry about.
Josh Sweat's a big one.
Yeah, but every team has that.
Yeah.
People get way too hype. They won 10 straight. They're trying to get the number 1 seed. They're trying to go to the Super Bowl. That stuff will handle itself. Can you keep everybody? No, you can never keep everybody. But yeah, the goal number 1 would be Zach Bond, and
but
then
the way this
trickles down.
The way this GM has had hit rates on the first round in the last couple of years.
And that's another thing. You have to look at the draft, and probably they're going to look at edge rusher. Are they going to be able to get edge rusher drafting so deep in the first round? That affects your decision making.
Yeah, I talked to some people. It's a really, really good offensive line class this year.
The Eagles
I think the 3 positions, Jeff, where it's deep, if I'm not mistaken, are edge, offensive line, and tight end.
I've heard edge too. Well, tight end. I mean, look, I'm going to show my bias here. The Eagles could draft Tyler Warren right now, and I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, he's a good. I'm no Penn State hunk, but he's a good player, man.
Warren is. There's, he's not the best tight end though.
No, he's not. Colton Upwood.
Michigan, is he, the Michigan kid.
Yeah, he was hurt this year. But Tyler Warren in this offense would be something.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, the Eagles are getting Dallas Goedert back for the playoffs by all indications. So,
his season's far from over.
Does it seem to you guys that Jalen Hurts likes to throw the ball to Grant Calcaterra more than he likes to throw the ball to Dallas Goedert? Or is that just a
they have the relationship from college too.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do, but no, I don't think that's the case. He throws the ball to Dallas a lot.
He likes to go to his tight ends. Yeah. He always did. Like even in the beginning, like of his Eagles tenure, when he was a starter, he went to Zach Ertz.
Yeah, I guess it's more just I guess my expectation for Goddard is probably too high when you're the third option in the passing. I mean, it's inevitable when you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in front of you that you're not going to be top priority. And I think the way we talk about Goddard makes me think, well, he should be a top priority. He's that good of a tight end. But I get it. It's kind of lost in the
By the way, I had to get a lot of this. I don't even call it Bitterroll because it's not. But I posted a couple times this week the Eagles' path to win the NFC East, to get the 2 seed this week. And all I heard all week was, why are you even posting this? The Saints have no business beating the Commanders. Saints are not going to beat the Commanders.
They were a 2-point conversion away.
Johnson catch away from the Eagles wrapping all this up this week.
Yeah, 2-point conversion away. By the way, I like that New Orleans went for it.
I did too.
Terrible call at the end. Although, the receiver in the back of the end zone.
Call.
Oh, well, yeah. I don't like cutting off one side of the field. But I get it from the perspective of young quarterback. So you try to make it as easy as possible for him. Spencer Rattler has some athleticism, so I get it from that perspective. But I just hate cutting off the field with the game on the line.
Yeah, but look, that's an interim head coach, and they are playing hard for him right now. It's sure a lot harder than they were playing for Dennis freaking out.
I knew you were going to.
Dennis Allen sucks. He's a terrible head coach.
Monday without a shot at Dennis Allen.
I said right away, it was in my own reaction feed, the States are going to start winning games.
What did Dennis Allen do to you?
Nothing. He's just not a head coach. I don't think guys that are 9-33 in their first stint as a head coach should be a head coach.
I don't disagree that he's not a good head coach, but I just think there's some personal animus.
No, I love it. I love him as a defensive coordinator. Put him there. So I'll tell you what, if there's any team that needs a defensive coordinator this offseason, that's the first guy I'm calling.
It wouldn't be the first. Hey, if a coach treats you like shit, they deserve to get some. But I've never gotten that from Dennis Allen. He seems like a good enough guy, but
yeah, he is.
I don't think he's a good head coach. But I never advocate firing coaches in season. It does no good. What is this bullshit?
That's how that's going.
Yeah, this bullshit about firing. Well, we want to get a head start. Well, the Jets GM search is a good example. You can't interview any of the people you want to interview, so you interview retreads. You don't end up.
Their former GM was here yesterday. I don't know if you saw him.
Yeah, so was Andy Weidel. So everybody was here.
I know how that works.
Well, party in Philly yesterday with all the Howie Roseman.
Yeah, remember that narrative? Joe Douglas was the real reason behind Howie Roseman's success.
Yeah, no, Howie Roseman's and he is getting better and better.
That's what happens when you've had the job for 15 years and you let a guy grow.
But not everybody gets better and better like that, Jeff. I mean, he's. I give Howie a lot of credit, man. He's really turned into a
Howie gets enough flowers. Don't give Howie more flowers.
Yeah, John doesn't like when I give Howie flowers. I think he deserves them, man. I think when you earn flowers, he also has gotten a lot of shit, John, in Philly.
You give him a big head. He has given a lot of shit. That's why he's got the darkest tint you can have.
I'll tell you what, Howie reads everything good said about it. Guaranteed.
He's got the darkest tint you can buy because of all the shit he got in Philadelphia.
I don't blame him. And he probably tells the cop when they pull him over for it, I ain't changing it. So just get ready to keep writing.
By the way, guys, speaking of future Eagles opponents here, what the heck is going on down in Dallas right now? They're already talking about trading Micah Parsons. Technically, they're not eliminated yet.
Please give me Micah in Philly so that I can listen to you two tell me how generational of a talent he is. And then, at that point, I'll actually like listening to it. Please.
Yeah, I take the opposite. Please give me Micah Parsons in Philadelphia so I can shut up all these Eagles fans who claim he isn't good.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
You know what? You want a guy who create self-inflicted drama, Micah Parsons.
Well, that's true. You might not want that part of it, but they'll love him on the field. I guarantee you that.
My favorite Micah Parsons moment this year, and he's had some good ones, was when he was on his podcast naming the top 10 quarterbacks in football, and he doesn't even name his own quarterback.
Now, Jeff Kerr is a Penn State guy, and I've said this is Jeff Kerr.
By the way, him and Saquon are close.
Yeah, well, I say the best player from Penn State in the NFL ain't Saquon. He's number 2.
Well, it's Micah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the Steelers have a good Penn State player on their team. They have 2, actually.
A lot of people have. There's a lot of good Penn State players. Joey Porter Jr., not one of them.
Pat Fryermuth's a good player.
Hey, Fryermuth's a very good player. I was surprised they didn't go to him a little bit more early and often.
My bold prediction was he was going to get 10 targets. I don't think he got 10.
Yeah, I don't like that offense. But and Fryermuth is a very good player, but when that's your best offensive player, I don't like that.
I was laughing last week, by the way. I know we're going back to Belichick here. But when they're like, Arthur Smith, North Carolina was interested in him. And then you hear the Belichick stuff. I'd be like, hey, Arthur, go away.
Yeah, really.
The Bill Belichick or Arthur Smith, which one do you want?
I still can't believe Bill did that. I mean, I think it's interesting. I'm kind of excited to see it, but interesting.
You know what? I think if I was an 18, 19-year-old kid, I want to be coached by Bill Belichick.
I would. But the 18, 19-year-old kids today, Jeff, I just don't know what they're like.
Well, I know what they're like. How much money are you giving?
Yeah, how much money? How much money followed by how much playing time?
Yeah, because playing time means money.
If I'm not going to play or if I'm not getting NIL money, I'm going to go in the transfer portal. That's why I can't believe Bill did it.
Penn State's backup quarterback's in the transfer portal right now.
Is he?
They have a playoff game on Saturday.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's a perfect example of what I'm saying. I mean, what boy, yeah. They should push that back to at least after the playoff.
Well, that's
right?
what people were saying. Like, they don't blame the player. They're blaming the game right now. This is the game.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
No,
so all these playoff teams have guys in the portal?
Yeah, some do.
Yeah, that's not a good setup, man.
No, it should be after the season. Have the portal set up January 21st, right after the national championship ends. You can do all you want with it.
Yeah, that's the simplest fix in the world.
Yeah, it's like everybody thinks Major League Baseball free agency starts heats up around the winter meet, but it actually starts a day after the World Series. Like, why can't you do that in college football?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I do not like the that's what I can't believe Bill Belichick wants any part of that. Any part of that, other than he's just
probably
because it's lifer.
Probably because it's more like the NFL now. And I do sincerely believe Bill. I always wanted to coach a college team, but you're not leaving the New England Patriots to go coach a college team when you're winning Super Bowls left and right.
Well, that's
I also think UNC is an interesting pick too. It's not particularly a football, you know what I mean? A big football school. They're a great.
Maybe that's the goal though. He's trying to make
right.
it.
Maybe he likes the quieter expectations.
And every North Carolina grad I talk to, they say the same thing. We win in everything but football. They do.
Well, yeah. But it's a basketball school. It will always be a basketball school.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with it.
Well, this is what recruits going to be hearing. Ready? They got Bill Belichick calling them. They got Lawrence Taylor calling them, and they got Michael Jordan calling them. Hey, come down to Chapel Hill.
What about Drake May? You don't think they're calling him?
Shit, I'm in, man. I can wear the Jordan brand and get coached by Belichick.
No. You know what, Zander? I'm going to go back to your alma mater here, Alabama. You know why Alabama's good at basketball right now? Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yep.
Their NIL is so impressive. You
Well,
want to talk about impressive
We're
NIL.
about to stink in football for a little bit.
One bad year.
I'm not a big fan of this new coach, Jeff.
You know what? Doesn't know when the ACC Alabama's playing Texas.
Well, but by the way, the fact that no NFL team wants Bill Belichick is an indictment on the NFL and these moron decision makers. Because who are the hot candidates going to be besides Ben Johnson? I want this guy. I want this guy.
It ain't going to be Bobby Slowick, I'll tell you that.
And he make these horrific decisions. I want Dave Canales. Oh, do you? Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Dave
Over
Canales.
Bill Belichick, that'll turn your franchise
Or
around.
how about the Falcons, just basically botching it? Oh, we'll take Raheem Morris, who was really bad.
Yeah, nothing against any of these guys. Dave, Raheem Morris. Yeah, Atlanta could have had him. And, I need Raheem Morris.
Here's my favorite. Let's not fire Matt Eberflus, who was terrible, but for Bill Belichick, see if we could get him. Instead, we'll keep Matt Eberflus and we'll just change it up.
You wonder why these organizations are bad organizations right there.
Do you think that Bill Belichick interest in the Jets was sincere? I kind of think it
I don't know. I've heard so many stories from Gary Myers, who, is really plugged into New York football, that how much Belichick hates the Jets.
Well, he can't stand them.
But if he wants a coach so badly, so the story was that he called Woody Johnson and the Jets and who he hates. I don't know how much I believe that. I don't know.
I've always given Bill credit for this when he basically resigned from the Jets the day he got hired.
On a bar napkin.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've read books. I've heard stories. It basically was, well, no, Woody Johnson was not the owner I signed up to do this for.
Yeah.
So, no, and I don't like the way he's going with this. No, this isn't the boss I want to have. So I'm out.
Jeff, let me get it back to the Eagles here. Are they the best team in football right now?
I'd say yes.
I'm gonna say yes too.
I would say yes. Look, I still think Detroit's really good, but see the clinic Buffalo put on them.
Yeah, and did you see the two dudes?
I mean, honestly, you can make a case Buffalo's the best team, right?
Nah, I can't.
I don't think so because of their defense.
Yeah.
Eagles have a much better defense.
On this date, where are we? December 16th snapshot. The Eagles are the best team in football.
And there's nothing wrong.
But
Also,
that
Kansas
doesn't mean
City
anything.
did
Got to keep it going.
Kansas
Got to
City
keep it
had an
going.
impressive win yesterday, but I thought they looked good. But Patrick Mahomes probably is not playing Saturday. We're going to see Carson.
That's awesome. Could you
It
imagine
is.
Carson Wentz against the Eagles in the Super Bowl?
So DeCheco and I were watching the end of that Chiefs game because Carson was in, and we're both like saying, "This guy looks like a guy who played in the NFL 9 years. He looked like a kid in a candy store. Like, all right, I get the quarterback. The Chiefs.
Boy, that would
today."
Did he play yesterday? Did he step in for Mahomes yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
he threw a couple crisp passes too. He was ready to go.
Oh God.
Andy Reid is going to reclamate Carson Wentz.
Oh,
Hey, reclamated Nick.
I freaking love that story. If that, I don't want Patrick Mahomes to be hurt, but that would be the greatest story
I think a lot of people in this town
in
would
Philadelphia.
Carson. I think a lot of people.
Are you kidding me?
I actually think they would.
Against
I think
the
enough
Eagles?
pass. Not
No.
against the Eagles. I mean, like right now, like Carson against the Texans on Saturday, or Carson against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I'm not saying against the Eagles. No.
2 for 2 for 20 yards, Carson Wentz.
And he looked crisp doing it.
Had a better passer rating than Patrick Mahomes. So
By the way, John, how about my bold prediction yesterday? And he got benched. Jake Hayner.
Jake Hayner, yeah. Bench for Spencer Rattler. And Spencer brings him back. They would have won
Yeah,
the
he brought
game.
him back. They should have won yesterday.
The Eagles probably be NFC East champions if Spencer Rattler played that whole game.
I think John and I spent an hour yesterday just complaining about how bad the 1 o'clock sleep was.
Oh my God, it was the worst ever.
It's terrible.
Not one compelling game.
I think that's why they kept the Eagles Commanders at 1. I think they needed to have a good 1 o'clock game.
I was talking to Zach last night, and he said he thinks the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock shift is different. There's so many TV rules now.
I don't know. I've talked to
still
people.
move it.
I talked to some TV people, and I don't think it can be moved.
All right.
But we'll see. I mean, later in the season, there might be different. I'll ask some people today.
Well, the only reason it would make sense that 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock would be different because you could, if it's CBS, you could move a 1 o'clock CBS to a 4 o'clock CBS.
And CBS has done that before, but
Right, and then if it's Fox, same
window.
thing. You could keep it on the same network. If you got to move a game off a network, there, that's where I think you're getting to. You know, that's why the Sunday night flexes are hard. You can't really.
Well, logistically too, it is harder to move.
Yeah.
1 in an 8. It just is like because you're doing travel plans,
right?
And you're, like.
And speaking of our travel plans, Jeff, we're not going to FedEx Field. We're going to Northwest.
Whatever.
What's it called? Man, Northwest Stadium.
Wait, did they change the name?
Yeah, they did. They got new naming rights.
Yes.
When was that?
Last
season?
year?
No, this season. This is the first season.
Okay.
It wasn't FedEx Field last year, though, right?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Or was last year the last year the naming rights deal?
FedEx Field, a pile of shit, isn't it?
I think they stopped calling it. Yeah, I think it ran out last year, and they stopped calling it anything. And then they got a new.
One of my first viral tweets had to do with FedEx Field. So it was like, I want to say it was like 2012, 2013, something like that. And they found like a horde of wasp in like the top of FedEx
there's so
Field.
many great.
And I said they've probably been living in there since 1997.
Yeah, I always said they should have gotten like a sewage company to do for when the sewage pipes would burst and the fans would get raw sewage dripped on them. Perfect.
Nasty ass FedEx Field.
My favorite moment with FedEx Field, actually, I was at Penn State, Indiana in 2010, which for some godforsaken
By the
reason,
way, they had Army Navy there. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
You know what's ridiculous about the Army Navy? It's only in Philly like once in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
They're rotating
terrible.
every year. And they're like,
I couldn't believe Navy won. I was surprised. I thought Army.
You know what? You know what's interesting is you drive there, Jeff. You always go through, you
Like
know,
that town.
you see all the you know, it might be NASA, you know, it might be a CIA, but I forget. There's a couple of government sort of signs and buildings along the way, and they're all dilapidated. It's like, what are we doing in this country? What are we doing?
But
It's like freaking fix this shit up.
the
And it
locals,
reminds me of FedEx Field.
the locals tell me all the time the biggest problem at FedEx Field is the metro does not take you there.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Well,
But they
why?
will be moving downtown. I believe they will get that done.
Are they going to move in the rat-infested RFK or whenever they tear that down?
Well, they're going to tear it down and build a new one. Or, you know, but now they're all bidding because Daniel Snyder's out. So Maryland wants to keep it. Virginia wants it downtown.
Your sources have told me Northern Virginia may be the spot.
It might be. And that makes it an even farther trip.
Yeah, I don't want to go through D.C. to get to that stadium.
Yeah. So I advocate for Baltimore.
You know where I advocate for? Whatever's closest to me. How's that?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's
Hey,
fine.
All right,
if
Jeff.
they want to build a stadium in Zander's backyard, I'd be all for it.
How about that? How about Delaware? How about Delaware?
Yeah, that's
why
a nice.
not Delaware? You know what? Martin Frank, he got to start advocating for that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. Before I let you go, man, your final thoughts on this game, man. 10 straight for the Birds. They're up there. They started 2-2. Now they're 12-2. Crazy turnaround for this team. Defense is humming. Offense now getting their passing game humming. Your final thoughts on this game, brother?
I'll say this: a couple weeks ago when they beat Baltimore, I said it's probably an overreaction right now to say they can win out. I'm starting to believe they're going to win out.
It looks like it, man.
That's
3 games
crazy.
left.
15-2.
15-2. Do you know how hard it is to go 15-2?
Wait, so think about this, guys. Think about this for a second. If they win out, they'll be 15-2. That'll be 13 straight wins for the team. And then if you go into the playoffs, let's just say they don't get the bye. In order to win the Super Bowl, that would have to be 17 straight wins.
It's
and
been
even with
done.
the bye, it would be 16 straight wins. I'm like, holy shit. Now,
Yeah,
I'm
not one that
I'm
I don't buy into that. You want to get a loss out of the way. If you're better than everybody, just go beat everybody.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
I'm not
I mean,
saying get a loss. I'm just saying that would be pretty remarkable.
I'm just saying, like, when they came out the 17-game schedule, you would have told me the Eagles were going to be going 15-2 once the next 10 years. I'm like, how the hell
I
did
said
they do it?
13-4, and John laughed at me.
I did. I did.
I had 12-5. I'm
I-
off.
You're an
I
Eagle.
had
I have to lose out
11.
now.
I am.
I had 11. Now, I thought the ceiling for this defense was 15th, 16th.
Which would have been a hell of a year.
Yeah. The defense never gets talked about. We barely talked about it today. We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
They never get talked. That's what turned this team into a 15-win team.
Spare the whole MVP talk with Saquon. Spare the whole Eric Dickerson rushing record. I'm going to tell you this. If Vic Fangio does not win Assistant Coach of the Year, I am going to lose my marbles.
Oh, my God. What he has done with this defense is just...
It's a slam dunk. He's going to win Assistant of the Year.
Always, because I've seen it so many times when players go from one place to another, how special this season is. It never works out as well as people envision, almost 90% of the time. Here you have Saquon worked out better than anybody could have even imagined. And then Vic Fangio as a coach. Talk about a ceiling. These guys even exploded the ceiling as far as performance. And with Vic's reputation, I was like, there's no way he could be as good as his reputation. He's better.
Yeah, it's nuts, right? Like, we all knew how good of a coordinator he was, and I criticized the hire. I'm like, well, why don't you just change up the defense? I'm like, no, they decided, we'll just get the actual base.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hate the scheme. I still hate the scheme.
But it works. But you
I
got
don't
the
hate
right.
it.
You got the
Well,
right pieces.
it works when you have him running it. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't
work
hate
when
it
you have
just
anybody else running it.
Yeah, like they hated Sean Desai last year.
Yeah.
They hated him.
Because it's not about the scheme. It's about teaching the scheme. That's what I think most people don't get.
And I think what helped is the Eagles got 2 young guys, impressionable guys, in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and Zach Bond, who really hasn't been a defensive savant, until this year. Nick Hobie, it's like these guys want to be coached up by somebody better. I really think that's what happened. They're like, well, okay, we'll listen to this guy.
I always say, Jeff, in this world, you can go on Google right now and find all of Vic Fangio's schemes and, playbooks, literal playbooks. That shit doesn't matter. Can you teach it? Can you teach the players to perform it? That's what he does. He can.
His
copycats cannot. You and I can copy it tomorrow. Can we go out there and teach them? No.
Again, it's like, what we see on X. You see a lot of guys break down film. You see a lot of guys do this, but it's not the same as, like you said, John, actually teaching it, actually showing.
Yep. Jeff, good stuff, man. We appreciate you joining today. We'll talk to you again soon. It's a big win for the Birds, and we appreciate you reacting to it with us here on Birds 365, right, brother?
All right, get some sleep. He was on with Ricky. What'd you get on? 4 a.m?
Yeah, something like that. It was late. And, now I'm getting texts from editors saying, oh, you missed this team. You missed this team when you did your playoff picture last night. I'm like, guys, I worked like 18 hours yesterday. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
Jeff.
You know how it works, John.
Yeah. Jeff, I appreciate you carving some time out for us, brother. Your work is appreciated here, and we appreciate you joining the show. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, man?
That sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank you, Jeff. Great stuff from Jeff. Make sure you guys follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Kerr CBS. Read all his work at CBS Sports. He does an excellent job, Jeff Kerr, covering the NFL and covering the Eagles. So good stuff there. Johnny Mac, we'll get to a break. Before I do that, I do want to read off a couple super chats here. Jason A-Team says, it's the 3rd time this year someone blocks and drives Slay all the way out of bounds and tries to hurt him. What is up with that? It is weird how they just – how do you get to the back wall?
I don't – I'm going to get myself in trouble. First of all, I love Slay, but number like he got dominated on that play, which is fine. It was Washington, big giant tight end. That's not the point, but like, why is he getting punished for finishing the play? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to drive the guy in the hell and back. Now, as you get out of bounds, I didn't see the whole thing because of the angle.
Yeah, I guess you don't want him to make a play, if the play.
That's exactly what you're supposed. When the Eagles' offensive line does that, everybody's thrilled. They're just that dominate. You shouldn't get punished for dominating a player. A guy made a good block. So I don't think now, if he kept going after he was out of bounds, then it's an issue. And again,
he did. He brought him right to the freaking wall, dude.
Well, yeah, then it's an issue. And then Quinyon, I think, came in and threw a punch. And trying to protect his guy. So that part's legitimate once it goes out of bounds. But as far as bulldozing him into the end zone, that fucking right. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but it was the wall. We're talking literally.
Yeah, then you got it. But as far as trying to injure him, I don't think people are trying to injure him. But yeah, it worked out. Pittsburgh got flagged twice. Pittsburgh's the one that got flagged twice.
Yeah, ultimately worked out for the Birds. Mesmerized checks in. He says, John, early in the season, I believe you were asked if you thought Nick Sirianni would be the head coach next year. You thought no at the time. What say you now?
Yeah, I don't know if I said no. I don't know. I talk every day. I talk every day.
I say that to people. We talk about football for 2 hours a day on air. You're going to say
I know for the most part I've defended Nick Sirianni against all the insanity. Now, what I might have said is I don't think this team what I said, in fact, I'm sure, I didn't like the setup.
Right, with the expectation
yes. And I said, look, if he doesn't reach those expectations, yes, he's out. That's sort of the nature of the Philadelphia right now, and Jeffrey Lurie's recent history of, look, if you don't meet expectations, you're out. And obviously what went on last year, yes, the odds were, I didn't like the setup. I did not like it. The fact that at the time, it seemed like they took the autonomy for the offense away from Nick Sirianni. Now it turns out that he had more control than people realized. Most of his offensive staff was back. However, as we get into this, I've always been an advocate of Nick Sirianni. I thought it was ludicrous when people were talking about him being fired at 2-2. But yes, when he came into this season, I thought the expectations and where this team was supposed to go, and it looks like where this team is going to go, I didn't think it was reachable. I said, I didn't think Vic Fangio would turn this from the 31st defense into number 1. If you would have told me that, I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
I thought they had the worst linebacking group in the NFL. I wasn't the only one. The Kobe Dean, there's a lot of revisionist history. Like how many people were excited about the Eagles linebackers? Like I could throw, how many Devin White people did we have?
I know. We had
yelling at me every day.
We had a lot of that.
So yeah, I didn't like the setup at the time in the off season, and it has worked out.
Yes, it has. Nick Sirianni.
For the most part, I think Zander can tell you I'm a Nick Sirianni supporter.
No, you are. But I think it is fair to say we wondered, like, with the setup, with the expectations.
Yeah, I didn't like
everything that went on. Yeah, I mean, could Nick be out? Because, like you said, last year you flew into Tampa and said there's no way Nick is gone. You left Tampa and said he might be gone.
Yeah.
You never know. So Abe checks in. He says, J-Mac, how do you view our Eagles from the start to now? Pretty broad question there, but
they've overachieved, which is, in between. They're a better team than I thought they would be. And the scary part is they haven't even played up to their potential offensively for the most part. Defensively, yeah. I mean, again, I thought their ceiling was 15th or 16th in the league.
Yeah.
Their ceiling.
And that was our goal. Can they get the 15?
Yeah. I thought they'd be, in the low 20s. I thought Vic would make them better, significantly better, which going from worst in the league in passing defense, 31st up to 21st is significantly better. They're number 1 in everything during this. They're number 1 overall, but they're number 1 in basically everything during this 10-game winning streak. I'm talking points per game, yards per game, yards per play, everything.
Yeah, it's insane what this defense is doing.
And, I think any Eagles fan who says, I knew that was coming, come on.
I got the receipts on all the comments. Nobody thought this.
Yeah. So
I'm not even sure Vic Fangio thought this.
No, he didn't. Well, Vic's honest to a fault. He talks about Zach Bond all the time. He didn't know. Just what he thought is, I think this guy can play off-ball linebacker. He didn't know. He just saw him and thought he had, the traits, and he's coached. That's his expertise. He's coached a lot of linebackers, Hall of Fame linebackers over the years. And he thought he had some traits that would project to that position, but he didn't know. I have tremendous respect. Jeff Stoutland will say the same thing about Jordan Mailata. I didn't know. I hoped. That's what Stoutland said. I didn't know. So, yeah, it's worked out.
Big win yesterday for the Birds. Their 10th straight, everybody. Abe, thank you for the super chat there. Lauren Cramsey checks in. Lauren, thank you for the super chat. She says, I told you guys they'd fix it. Seeing this one up close was fire. Son's first live game, too. So you were in the building. Pretty awesome there, Lauren. P.S. Mac's been defending Nick since last season. Yes.
Yeah, well, that's why it took me back. But I did not like the setup. I mean, I get killed for defending Nick. That's why it took me
you do.
back.
You do. I was hard on you earlier in the season for defending Nick. We were arguing about it.
Yeah. So that's why it was like, but I did not like the setup. And part of the reason why I didn't like the setup, because I didn't think it was fair to Nick. You either hire somebody to be the head coach or you don't hire somebody to be the head coach. And if you don't want him to be the head coach, then just fire him. And I thought that's an ugly situation where the Eagles were going down. But they have persevered and and it's interesting. They're 12-2, and I don't even like the offense.
Well, yesterday was a better version of the offense. Yesterday was an offense I believe you can get to a Super Bowl with. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, if you play like that consistently.
Right, you got to do it consistently, but you saw yesterday was the best glimpse at the way they utilized their talent. Maybe this year, maybe the best game offensively in terms of
it was by far the best game. And you can nitpick and say, well, they didn't run it that well. But even as I said, even when they don't run it well, you look up and they run for 100, 130. 130.
And by the way, Saquon missed the whole second quarter.
Yeah, and
so he had 65 yards. I mean, it's not the best by Saquon standards. Yeah, it's a down day, but 65 yards in 3 quarters isn't awful.
Well, and that's like the thing that they have the best running back in football, and I just don't want to play that way. It's like defense. I mean,
it all came to a head in a way where we've been talking. Listen, we're all excited about Saquon, but I do think yesterday was a show of.
Well, that's example. How much easier it is when you.
Yeah, this is why, John. I told people in the postgame show before you were even on yesterday. This is why people like John McMullen want a passing game. Because you see how much it improves your margin of error. You see how much more dynamic it makes you as a football team. And I think that was pretty evident to anybody that watched.
No, I hope so, but I fear not, but I hope so. But yeah, I mean, and that's not taking anything away from Saquon. It's just the natural evolution of the game. That's where you need to be to give yourself the best chance to win.
Lauren, thanks for the super chat. Really cool. We appreciate that. Nate the God. I love this nickname for you, John. Nate the God checks in and says it often. Appreciate it, Nate. J Mac Izzle. Why is Vic Fangio's scheme so much better here than Miami when Miami had more veteran players last year? And who is our defensive MVP? Good question there. And
Zach Bond. Zach Bond's the MVP.
Yeah.
Zach Bond.
I will ask this, though, about Vic. Well, before you answer directly his question. He's this good in Philly. Like, why has he moved around so much? You know what I mean? Like, could he just not figure it out with other teams? Like,
no, he had
good this year in Philly, and he's never had a number one defense. So it's not like this is the norm for Vic Fangio.
No, he's never had a number. Well, it's not. It's hard to have a number. He's had a lot of good defenses. He had a lot of
kind of bad defenses too, though.
Well, normally it takes a little bit while, but Miami was a top 10 defense last year. Like, they had a really good defense. Now at the end, Jalen Phillips got hurt and Andrew Van Ginkel got hurt. So he lost his 2 best edge rushers, and he was basically in the playoffs, literally playing guys they signed off the street. Justin Houston's of the world, I believe, was one of them. Literally guys they signed up, which you never want to be in that position. And the defense, but Miami had a very good defense last year. Now, they also, some of the cornerbacks had a problem. They didn't want to play that scheme because they had Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, and these are true press corners, and they just don't want to play zone all the time. So a lot of things factor into it. And one is you have veteran players who are used to playing a certain style, and he's changing the style, and they weren't happy with it. Here you have young guys who've never played anything in the NFL, and they've embraced it, and they played it at a high level. But I mean, I don't. He hasn't bounced around a lot. He was a head coach, and obviously he was a head coach because he was such a damn good defensive coordinator in Chicago, and before that in San Francisco. So if you look at San Francisco to now, where he was the best defensive coordinator in football in San Francisco, and then he moved to Chicago, where he's the best defensive coordinator. And then he got a head coaching job and he got fired. Wasn't a great head coach. Wasn't a bad head coach, had good defenses. Then he had the year where he's out of football, helped the Eagles in training camp, was a consultant, and then Miami. You're talking about over a decade where he's been the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, widely regarded. And that's why everybody's copied his scheme. So there's literally not a stop where he didn't have a good defense. That doesn't mean you're going to be perfect every year.
Right.
Doesn't mean, the first year they a little bit better. When you go to a new spot, typically the atypical part is they're this good this early. We all expect that they'll be better as long as Vic's here, and it'll keep getting better. To be this good this early is the weird part. But he's always, in every single one of those spots, has had great defenses.
Good stuff there, Nate the God. Appreciate that. Look at this. Doug Erickson checks in. Doug, appreciate this comment. He says, love the show, boys. Johnny Mac is the new Ray Diddy. That's really cool. That's high praise right there, Johnny Mac. Appreciate you checking in, Doug. Good stuff there. A couple more super chats we'll get to. Abe says, a little love for Nolan hurdling Warren. Did you see that, John?
Yeah, well, Nolan's a great athlete. I mean,
dude, he clean hurdled that player. It was incredible.
You don't see many defensive ends, and that's essentially what he is. But obviously, like edge rusher. But yeah, he's crazy athletic for an edge rusher, and that's why he's a first-round pick. But there's a give and take. There's a give and take to that, in that he's undersized, and the concern is you get pushed around a little bit, but he's doing great. So, I always talk about Math Bomb Kent Lee Platt, who grades prospects from the measurables standpoint from the combine. So, from 1987 to 2023, when Nolan got drafted, 1,629 defensive ends, edge rushers, whatever you want to call them. He was 126th of that 1,629 from an athleticism testing and measurable standpoint. And all of that 126 was basically related to a size, which is poor for obviously 6'2", 238. From just the athleticism, he's top 10. I mean, he is a freaky athlete.
Yeah, he's impressive. Kyle Studer checks in. Kyle, appreciate it. Shout out to Gainwell. 3 to 4 nice plays off the bench. He had 2 big third down conversions that John mentioned them earlier in the show. The spin move and then the split the defenders. Really, really good game yesterday for Kenny Gainwell.
Kenny's one. I've been saying it for a long time. He's one of the most underrated players on this team. He is a really good player. Jalen Hurts loves him. He is the best. I know this pisses people off, but he's the best pass catching back on the Eagles. I'm not saying he's better than Saquon. I'm just saying he is the most natural receiver they have in the backfield. He's got tremendous hands, great route runner. And is he a feature back? No. But as a backup, he's really good. And if anything, he should be playing a little bit more to save a little bit of wear and tear off Saquon. Is how I would handle it.
Good stuff, Kyle. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, Gainwell's been great. Abe says, I feel like Vic care more since this is his last stop. Man, I don't know. I mean, maybe.
I think he cares. I mean, dude loves
he likes Philly.
He loves Philly. He considers this his home. Yeah, but he's not trying harder. I mean, he loves football. He's trying. Like Miami had a really freaking good defense last year until they fell apart.
Yeah.
Not this good. But it's hard to have. The Eagles haven't had a number one defense, for the people that don't know, since Bud Carson. And Buddy Ryan, for all the talk about Buddy, never had a number one defense. It ain't easy to have a number one defense. But when you're consistently at the top of the ladder, that's what matters more than actually being number one. Although the Eagles have a very good chance of finishing number one this year.
Good stuff there. Neclo says 4-0 versus the AFC North. That was the sweep of the NFC North or AFC North yesterday.
Yeah.
Impressive.
That's a good sweep, because that's one of the
division. Yep.
That's the best division, I think, in the AFC from top to bottom. That's an impressive sweep.
Yeah, impressive. Man in Black says I thought it was Quinyanimo, not Quintanamo. I thought
it is Quinyanimo, but people call it Quintanamo because it's Guantanamo and it's easier to say Quintanamo. But it's officially Quinyanimo, which makes sense because that's his name.
Yeah, Quinyanimo Bay Corrections Facility of No Return. Good stuff. Man in Black, appreciate you checking in, brother. John, let's end it here with a couple comments. This is a good comment here by Philly Don. Now, I don't know how we do this without having the right setup, but Philly Don says, John, can you give us your game grades? But it's tough to do that. Let me get your grade on Jalen Hurts and then the offense as a whole, and then we'll do some defensive guys. Jalen Hurts, what'd you think yesterday?
Well, the first watch, and I haven't rewatched the game.
I rewatched last night.
Yeah, tremendous performance. Best performance of the season from Jalen Hurts. I think he completed his first 8 passes. All sharp, ball coming out on time for the most part, which has been his biggest problem this season. The guy said there was a bunch of uncomfortable conversations. So everybody was aware. Behind the scenes, I wish people could see. Everybody was aware. Everybody wanted to improve the passing game. AJ got singled out, but AJ talked about it last week. Devontae talked about it. Jalen talked about it. Nick Sirianni talked about it. Jordan Mailata talked about it. Lane Johnson. Everybody was on the same page. And then I think part of it is they took Pittsburgh really seriously. They think Pittsburgh's a really good opponent. And there's the human nature, which I said earlier in the show, swings both ways. So they probably took Carolina a little bit lightly, and they were hyper focused on Pittsburgh because they thought if they played like that again, they were going to get beat. So I think that factors into it as well. But yeah, he was great. There's nothing to complain about in Jalen Hurts in that game.
Great in the offense as a whole, John. Maybe Kellen Moore. What'd you think of that and what they were able to do? How much do you put on Kellen Moore for what they were able to do yesterday? Because I was kind of beating up on Kellen Moore last week, where I'm like, you went from 14th to 31st in the passing game. Your grades are down on Pro Football Focus across the board in the passing game. Like, is this all on Jalen or is it Kellen? And I think maybe yesterday.
I don't think anything changed. I talk with the same thing. What I talk about with Vic, I talk about with Kellen. It's nothing changed scheme wise. It's about teaching the scheme. It's about executing the scheme. It's about having the players ready, which I know is boring for people. Nothing changed from a scheme perspective. They just executed things better. Again. If you saw the plays that were there in Carolina, well, that's not Kellen Moore's fault. There was stuff there that wasn't executed properly. If you wanted to blame Kellen Moore, and I constantly say, that's fine, but understand it's about that teaching part of the equation, not the scheme, not all that stuff. So that's kind of where I am with that. It's a player-driven league, and the players performed. And if Jalen Hurts played the way he played yesterday, like if he played like that against Carolina, they would have been great against Carolina. It's a player-driven league.
Absolutely. We'll get our final thoughts here on Birds 365. Before I do that, I just want to tell you guys real quick about BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. Use the promo code on your screen. It's YouTube 150. That's 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposits, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more. I'm taking an Eagles Super Bowl future, everybody. Are you on BetUS? I'll be looking into that today over there.
Should have got it earlier, man. Now it's everybody's going to be taking the Eagles.
Yeah, no, you're right. But hey, listen, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So go check them out, everybody. We appreciate them for sponsoring the 2-hour show today. And use that promo code when you sign up so you get that extra money to bet with. We appreciate BetUS for sponsoring the show today. John, either tell me I'm justified or walk me off the ledge, and it's a good ledge. As an Eagle fan, watching that game yesterday, I started to get the chills, John. I'm like, this team might have some Super Bowl. This team might be going to the Super Bowl, John. Are you ready to say that is a good possibility, or are you ready to say I'm Eagle-colored glasses and shut the fuck up?
I already said they were a legitimate Super Bowl contender before this game. And then all the injuries to Detroit complicates things from their perspective. I think the Eagles are better than Minnesota. They're better than Green Bay. Not that those teams can't play an A game. When the Eagles play a C game, they could beat them. But the Eagles have been a legitimate Super Bowl contender for a number of weeks, I think. But yeah, to be able to put that performance together, there's an overreaction. That's why we call it Overreaction Monday. Just like there was an overreaction against Carolina and a poor performance, there's an overreaction to the good performance. Right now, today, on December 16th, they look like the best team in football. And that's the ceiling, the best team in football. So if your ceiling is the best team in football, that means you can win the Super Bowl.
Best team in football. Those Detroit injuries are piling up. Eagles are, John, I know you don't know anything about the injuries yesterday, but it looks like we kind of I don't want to say we got lucky, but it doesn't look like any of these season enders, nothing like that for the Eagles yesterday.
Nope. Saquon said he was fine.
A couple guys banged up,
Lane was banged up. All the offensive, so many of the offensive linemen were banged up, but Mackay was there talking. Landon was there talking. Lane was there talking. That's a good indication that it's not serious. If it were, they wouldn't have been. They've gotten, and that's part of it as well. I mean, attrition, and you still got 3 games to go, and all of this can change at the right injury at the wrong time. But right now, on December 16th, they look like the best team in football, the most well-rounded team. They can beat you defensively. They can beat you with the running game. They proved they could beat you with the passing game finally, which we all thought they could do or should be able to do on paper. They can even beat you on special teams if everything goes correctly. They have good gunners, good punt returners, even though Cooper had the fumble yesterday. Britton Covey should be back. Sidney Brown got a concussion, so he might be out this week, but nothing terribly serious.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. A couple minutes left on the show today. Your final thoughts. Did they do enough yesterday to quiet your concerns, John, about the passing game? I think that was obviously the big question going in from last week, and they obviously responded to it in a big way. 25 of 32 for Jalen with 290 and 2 touchdowns and a 125 rating. He was on fire yesterday. Did they do enough to quiet that part of your concern on this team?
Well, I never had a concern from the receiver standpoint. It was all related to the quarterback, and certainly he proved that. But I'm not going to go to that. It's solved. I mean, it's solved has to do with consistency,
right?
And they have one more tough game, and I don't even know how tough it is if they play well. I think if they play well, they handle Washington pretty easily. But again, to assume they're going to play at that level each and every game is probably incorrect, because you can rewind a week and see that they didn't. But again, when they seem to have that human nature in the positive direction, and it should be this week, because they can win the NFC East. They now see that carrot, even though Nick doesn't like to talk about it, dangling in front of them of the number 1 seed. In theory, they should be up for this game as well. And if they're just better than Washington. And then you start talking about that a moribund Dallas team and a dead Giants team. Those are the games where you might play down to the opposition a little bit. But they're so good, they should be able to skate by them pretty easily. They're a good team. Very good team.
Good stuff there. Appreciate everybody checking in. 2 more super chats here on the way. I appreciate you guys, all the support today. Hit that like button. A lot of people watching on Birds 365. As always, we appreciate each and every one of you. Seth says, hard to see Eagles losing in the playoffs this year. I fear Minnesota more than Detroit at this point. Jefferson is a monster. Yeah, they're playing good, that Minnesota team.
Yeah, they're a very good team, but I don't like them against the Eagles for the fact that they have the same problem the Steelers have. Like, their biggest weakness is cornerback. They have no corners.
I don't like Brian Flores, though.
I love him, but
I love him so much that I don't want to play him.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a big Brian Flores fan, but they don't have corners. And you just saw a team that didn't have corners try to deal with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
So, but he's right about Jefferson.
Jefferson's crazy good.
Yeah.
I think Jamar is taking the throne for this year. I mean, it'll change probably again, but Jamar right now is best receiver.
I don't think he's taking it I think he's taking it in the fan world because of the numbers, but I think in the NFL world, I think, Jefferson's pretty unanimous.
Brian Pumper checks in. Finally, there he is. There he is. He says Hurts had a Corey Brewer 50.
Yeah, he did. That's a good that's a good comp, the 50-point game. I go to Willie Burton, 50-point
You're not
game.
calling Jalen Hurts Corey
No.
Brewer.
I'm saying 50-point game. He had a 50-point game. And I get what Brian's trying to say. No, Brian's trying to say every once in a while there's the Willie Burtons, Corey Brewers of the world that go up for 50, but they're not really that good. We know Brian's stick. He doesn't like Jalen Hurts. But I like the analogy of from his perspective. I don't agree with Jalen's a good quarterback, but he had a 50-point game. But he's not Corey Brewer or Willie Burton, the Sixers 50-point game.
Brian's a funny guy. I'll tell you what. Brian makes me chuckle. All right, Brian, I appreciate you, brother. Corey Brewer 50-pointer. I'm not calling it that.
Yeah, well, he doesn't like Jalen's game. Jalen's had a bunch of 50-point games. That's the problem.
I think the key takeaway from yesterday, though, is it's not a bad thing to want a better passing game because you see how good those 2 receivers are. It's worth getting them involved. I think that was my biggest takeaway from yesterday.
Yeah, it is worth getting them involved. Willie Burton scored 53 points for the Sixers against the Miami Heat. I remember that game.
Willie Burton, you got to be kidding me. I think this guy's earned more respect than that. Brian checks in one more time. He says, every clock is right twice a day.
By the way, to go down deeper, my Willie Burton wormhole, 2 years later, he was playing for the Florida Beach Dogs.
Oh, God. You got to be kidding me.
The Florida Beach Dogs.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So there you go. He's
All
better.
right, John. Your final thoughts real quick before we let you run.
Yeah, well, let's give everybody out on high note. Just what I said. Monday, December 16th, 9 days in front of Christmas, your Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFL.
Good stuff.
Just a snapshot, though. You got to finish it.
You want to rip Seth before you go? He says, John, where are your apologies for Sirianni having the best win streak in Eagles history? Is he fired yet? Like, Seth, you clearly don't listen to the show. I mean, you clearly don't listen to both.
You are in the minority there, Seth. Yeah. I pretty much get destroyed every day for defending Nick. Not anymore, because people like you act like you weren't hating him and wanting him fired. Yeah, I'll take that hit. Yeah, they've never won 10. I talk about Nick's record all the freaking time. He's got the 6th best winning percentage in NFL history, and the vast majority of this fan base wanted him fired, which Zander can tell you, I am not in that category.
No, you were not. And I think, again, John, this is where you talk about how it can be tough to be a reporter and do a talk show at the same time. I think people sometimes struggle with getting your opinion versus, whether you're reporting on what the team is or what might happen with the team.
Yeah, well, I think the disconnect is I did not like the spot the Eagles put Nick Sirianni in, and I thought it was unfair to Nick Sirianni. That was my take. I thought it was very unfair to Nick Sirianni. He has traversed it very, very well.
All right, that's going to do it for Birds 365 today, everybody. We appreciate you guys for watching today. Hit that like button on your way out. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. We will talk to you tomorrow on a big Tuesday edition of Birds 365. Looking forward to it, brother.
All right, thanks, everybody. Enjoy Victory Monday.
Yes, sir. Please do that. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be live later on today, 2 to 6 on the National Football Show. And Birds 365 back in the morning, 8 to 10 tomorrow morning. We'll talk to you guys then.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.